Ever looked out at the ocean and wondered what's really down there, in the deepest, darkest parts? We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about our own ocean floors. It's a staggering thought, right? Over 80% of our planet's oceans remain unmapped, unobserved, and unexplored. This isn't just empty water. It's a colossal, three-dimensional world, teeming with secrets. Today, we're diving headfirst into this abyss. We're going on an expedition to imagine the kinds of creatures that might exist, completely unknown to science. What kinds of life have evolved in a world of crushing pressure, no sunlight, and freezing temperatures? Forget aliens from outer space. The most alien life forms on Earth are likely swimming right below us. So grab your virtual submarine because we're about to explore the hypothetical biodiversity of the deep sea. First, let's talk about the pressure. In the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean, the pressure is over 1,000 times what we experience at sea level. It's like having 50 jumbo jets stacked on top of you. Any creature living there can't just be tough. Its entire biology has to be built differently. We know of some creatures, like the Mariana snailfish, that have evolved gelatinous, boneless bodies to cope, but what else? I imagine giant, amorphous beings, almost like living blobs of jelly that don't have a fixed shape. They wouldn't need skeletons, which would just get crushed. Their cells would be filled with special molecules called piezolites, which protect their proteins from being squeezed out of shape. These creatures would be the ultimate survivors, thriving in an environment that would instantly obliterate us. Now let's turn off the lights. In the aphotic zone, or the midnight zone, there is absolutely no sunlight. So, how do creatures see? Well, most of them don't, at least not with eyes like ours. Instead, they create their own light through a process called bioluminescence. We've seen this in anglerfish with their famous lures, and in shimmering jellyfish. But let's push that idea further. Imagine a colossal squid, not just with glowing spots, but with the ability to change the color and pattern of its entire body, creating complex light shows. Why? It could be a sophisticated language to communicate with others of its kind in the pitch black, sending messages about food, danger, or mating. Or perhaps it's a defense mechanism, creating a dazzling, disorienting flash to stun a predator, giving it just enough time to escape into the darkness. It's a silent, underwater light festival that we've never been invited to. The food chain in the deep sea is also incredibly unique. Without plants to form the base, life depends on what falls from above or what's cooked up from the Earth's core. We know about hydrothermal vents, these underwater geysers spewing superheated, mineral-rich water. Bacteria thrive here, using chemicals like hydrogen sulfide for energy and a process called chemosynthesis. This forms the base of a whole ecosystem. We've found tube worms and crabs, but what else is there? I envision giant, filter-feeding organisms, stationary and ancient, that look more like rock formations than living animals. They could have massive, intricate filtering structures, sifting out these chemosynthetic bacteria from the water. They might live for thousands of years, growing slowly in the cold, stable environment, silent witnesses to the geological time passing around them. These would be the ancient redwoods of the deep sea. And what about the hunters? Every ecosystem has its apex predators. In the deep, they'd be masters of ambush and energy conservation. Think of a fish that has evolved to be almost perfectly invisible. Not through camouflage, but through a skin that absorbs nearly all light, making it a moving black hole in the water. We've actually found fish that absorb over 99.5% of light. But what if there's a predator that has perfected this? It could drift silently, its presence undetectable until its jaws snap shut. It wouldn't waste energy on long chases. Instead, it would be a patient assassin, relying on a single, perfectly executed strike. It might also have incredibly sensitive organs to detect the faint electrical fields or tiny pressure changes made by prey moving nearby, hunting with senses we can barely comprehend. Let's also consider the sheer scale of the ocean. Some of the largest animals on our planet, like the blue whale, live in the sea. Is it possible that even larger creatures exist in the unexplored depths? While the lack of food makes it challenging, it's not impossible. Imagine a creature that has a super slow metabolism, moving glacially and feeding very rarely, perhaps on the occasional whale fall, a dead whale sinking to the ocean floor. A single whale fall can sustain an ecosystem for decades. A creature evolved to be a specialized whale-fall scavenger could grow to immense sizes, slowly roaming the vast abyssal plains, moving from one colossal feast to the next, which might be years or even decades apart. Its life would operate on a completely different timescale to ours. The diversity of form is another fascinating area. On land, life is mostly constrained by gravity. In the water, you can be anything. We could have creatures that are basically living nets, drifting in the currents and ensnaring anything that bumps into them. Their bodies could be a delicate biological lattice, meters wide but weighing very little. There might be creatures that have formed a permanent symbiotic relationship, like a colony of organisms that join together to form a single, larger superorganism. We see this with the Portuguese man-o'-war, but a deep-sea version could be far larger and more complex, with different parts of the colony specialized for flotation, feeding, and reproduction, all working together as one. Even reproduction would have to be radically different. In the vast, empty expanses of the deep sea, finding a mate is a huge challenge. The anglerfish has a famous solution, where the tiny male fuses his body to the much larger female. What other strange strategies exist? Maybe there are species that are all female, reproducing asexually through parthenogenesis. Or perhaps there are creatures that can store sperm for years, or even decades, waiting for the perfect conditions to fertilize their eggs. There could be species that release genetic material into the water, hoping it finds a compatible recipient by chance, a sort of biological message in a bottle. The strategies for continuing a species in this sparse environment are likely as weird and wonderful as the creatures themselves. The sounds of the deep are another mystery. We know sound travels incredibly well in water. Whales and dolphins use it to communicate across vast distances. Could a completely unknown species be creating some of the strange, unidentified sounds that our hydrophones pick up from time to time? Like the famous bloop sound, which was more powerful than any recognized animal call, though later attributed to an icequake. Still, it sparks the imagination. What if there are creatures that use low-frequency rumbles to navigate, to map their surroundings, or to stun their prey with concussive force? The deep ocean could be filled with a symphony of sounds that we are only just beginning to listen to, a conversation that has been going on for millennia. So, why haven't we found these creatures? Well, exploring the deep sea is incredibly difficult and expensive. It requires specialized submersibles that can withstand the immense pressure, and we've only explored a tiny fraction of the ocean floor. Every time we send a probe or a remote-operated vehicle down, we find new species, literally every single time. This isn't a question of if there are undiscovered creatures, but how many and how bizarre they are. The ocean is the last great frontier of exploration on our own planet. It's a world of perpetual darkness, crushing pressure, and unimaginable life. The creatures we imagine today are based on the principles of biology and the extreme conditions of the deep. The reality is likely even stranger and more wonderful than we can possibly conceive. The deep ocean holds the answers to some of the most fundamental questions about life itself. How can life exist in such extreme environments? What are the absolute limits of biology? Every new species we discover gives us another piece of that puzzle. So the next time you see the ocean, remember that what you see on the surface is just the beginning. Beneath the waves lies a hidden universe, a world of darkness and light, of immense pressure and delicate life, and of creatures that are still waiting for their moment to be discovered. The age of exploration is far from over, it's just moved underwater. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the unknown. What kind of creature do you imagine is hiding in the abyss? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures into the mysteries of our world. Until next time, stay curious